Alexandra Botez is a prominent figure in the online chess community. As a Canadian chess player, Twitch streamer, and content creator, she has established a strong presence in the industry. One day during her regular stream, she had a surprise guest, none other than the world champion Magnus Carlsen, who was also streaming at the same time. A fan suggested the idea of a challenge between the two, and Alexandra was excited about the prospect. Magnus agreed to the challenge, but with a twist. He gave himself a handicap of just 30 seconds on the clock, while Alexandra had a generous 5 minutes. The question on everyone's mind was how the games would unfold. They engaged in a series of 7 games, and while Magnus Carlsen seemed to dominate in 5 of them, Alexandra Botez proved to be a strong opponent in 2 games. One of those games featured Alexandra playing with the white pieces. She initiated the game with the move pawn to d4. In response, Magnus countered by playing his pawn to g6. Alexandra continued with pawn to c4, opting for the queen's gambit. Magnus, on the other hand, chose to employ the king's Indian opening to complete his development. He developed his dark square bishop through the g7 square, followed by placing his knight on f6, playing the pawn to d6, and eventually castling. Alexandra, in turn, adopted a solid variation known as the Samish formation to face the world champion. The game continued with both players moving their pieces around until Magnus decided to trade queens. Exchanging queens usually leads to longer games as it moves the game closer to the endgame stage. Magnus thought that by exchanging queens, the game would become simpler with fewer pieces on the board, making it easier to choose the next moves. As the game progressed, Magnus faced the challenge of making the right moves under time pressure. Despite the difficulties, he managed to reach a better endgame because his knight was more active than the opponent's white bishop. Magnus attempted to create pressure on the b3 pawn, aiming to make progress on the queen side. Meanwhile, Alexandra focused on protecting and defending the pawn. Both players didn't make the most accurate moves, resulting in a less precise game. Despite the position appearing to be completely closed and Alexandra seemingly holding her ground, Magnus, under intense time pressure, made the move pawn to b5, which turned out to be an obvious mistake. This decision gave Alexandra the advantage, while simultaneously throwing the game into complete chaos. Magnus followed up with another pawn sacrifice on a4. As a result, Alexandra now possesses 2 dangerous connected passed pawns on the queen side, putting her in a winning position. The question remains, can she maintain her advantage and secure the victory? In the game, Magnus made a smart move by capturing the pawn on f4 with his rook. This turned out to be a critical moment as Alexandra made a mistake by playing bishop to e2, which left the a4 square unguarded. As the game progressed, Magnus skillfully captured the 2 passed pawns, giving him a clear advantage in terms of pawns. Although he had a strong position, the challenge for Magnus was his limited time. With only 13 seconds on his clock, he had to make quick decisions. Nevertheless, Magnus used his pawns on the king's side to his advantage, creating a dangerous passed pawn on the f-file. With careful play, he managed to capture another pawn, bringing him closer to victory. It was only a matter of time before Magnus would secure the win in this exciting game. Magnus continued advancing his pawns with the support of his black king. As the rooks were exchanged, it seemed reasonable for Alexandra to consider resigning. However, due to Magnus' severe time trouble, she decided to keep playing, hoping for a miracle where Magnus would run out of time before delivering a checkmate. But Carlsen displayed remarkable speed as he pursued victory in this game, relentlessly pushing his pawns forward and promoting them to queens. Despite being dangerously close to running out of time, the exceptionally fast Carlsen managed to deliver a checkmate to Alexandra, with the assistance of his 2 promoted queens, leaving a mere 1.6 seconds on the clock. So far, Alexandra has fallen behind 6-0 in this challenge, leaving her with one final opportunity to secure a victory. Once again, Alexandra took the white pieces and initiated the game with the move pawn to c4, opting for the English opening. Carlsen responded by playing his knight to f6, followed by c5, choosing a symmetrical formation against the English opening. Both players followed theory about developing their pieces, and after Alexandra castled her king, both armies had nearly completed their development. Now, let's take a moment to discuss the strategies employed by both sides in this middle game. White's objective would be to advance their kingside pawns and launch a pawn storm to attack the black king. Conversely, black would aim to create difficulties for white on the opposite side of the board, employing moves such as rook to b8, followed by a6 and b5, in order to achieve a breakthrough in the queen side. The key to success in this game would be the ability to swiftly execute one's chosen strategy, as the player who accomplishes their goals first would gain the upper hand. Carlsen took the lead by moving his rook to b8, showing his plan. Alexandra responded by moving her pawn to f4. Undeterred, Carlsen made a common move in this situation. He moved his knight to c7 through the e8 square to help advance the pawn to b5. Despite Alexandra's efforts to stop the pawn from advancing, Carlsen managed to make the move b5 after some clever moves. With his bishop now on g4, Carlsen had a strong advantage and was in a good position to win. After that, Carlsen captured the knight on e2, and Alexandra recaptured with her queen. This showed the clear difference in strength between Carlsen's knight and Alexandra's bishop, giving Carlsen a big advantage. Carlsen continued to put pressure on the b-pawn by using his 2 rooks and queen. Although Alexandra tried to defend the pawn with her 2 rooks and queen, Carlsen skillfully shifted his focus to the d-pawn and captured it. He also exchanged queens to make his task even easier. And while the position is completely winning and easy for Magnus, the problem now lies in the limited amount of time he has left to win the game. Carlsen has already used up 19 precious seconds, leaving him with only 11 seconds for the remainder of the game. After the queens were exchanged, Magnus successfully captured another pawn. Despite the position being utterly hopeless for Alexandra, she refused to resign, and clung to the hope that Magnus wouldn't be able to deliver checkmate in time. In an attempt to prolong the game and make it even more challenging for Carlsen, Alexandra played her rook to a7, attacking the e7 pawn. Magnus responded by moving his king to f6 to protect the pawn. Alexandra then moved her rook back to protect the b2 pawn. Alexandra demonstrated her cleverness by trying to stretch the game and increase the number of moves, as each move would cost Carlsen more precious seconds. Carlsen proceeded with the traditional plan to secure victory, which involved bringing his king closer to the action and advancing his pawn to create a passed pawn. After numerous moves and maneuvers by both players, Magnus even managed to further increase his advantage by capturing the white bishop without any cost. On the other hand, Alexandra seemed to disregard the need for precise moves and solely focus on playing quickly in an attempt to defeat Carlsen on time. So far, she had been successful in doing so. However, after 47 moves, and despite being 2 pawns and a piece ahead, Magnus found himself with a mere 1.6 seconds remaining to win the game and deliver a checkmate. The time control was extremely tight, posing a significant challenge for him. In a desperate bid, Magnus played at an incredibly fast pace, maneuvering all his forces closer to the white king in search of a checkmate. However, the white king proved to be remarkably fortunate in evading checkmate. Magnus strategically doubled his rooks on the second rank and delivered a check with his knight on d3, appearing to be on the brink of checkmating the white king. Yet, with less than 1 second left on his clock, time was running out for Magnus. Alexandra managed to escape with her king to the a1 square, and following Carlsen's capture of the rook on e1, Alexandra responded with the move rook to a3. In a state of desperation due to time pressure, Carlsen made a critical error by playing the move rook to a2 check, a clear blunder. However, instead of capturing the rook on a2, Alexandra also made a blunder by hastily moving her king to b1. This provided Carlsen with an opportunity to deliver checkmate in just 2 moves. Unfortunately for the world champion, time ran out for him, resulting in his loss in the game.
Yes! 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 Yes!
This single victory for the Canadian streamer brought her immense joy and satisfaction. However, Carlsen's face drew a disappointed smile.